Coming up on the show, we're going to talk to a member of the Atlanta Fire Rescue about the unknown dangers which can put a first responder's life on the line, especially when they answer the call. Also, find out how two groups are coming together to try to keep the Hooch in good shape, all with the hanging threat of federal funds being pulled. And you know, it's the summertime in Atlanta when we're talking about the AJC Peachtree Road Race. We're going to get the latest on the race and everything you need to know about the 4th of July fun. That's coming up. This is The Take. Let's get it. All right, hello and welcome. I'm Chesley McNeil, and this is The Take, where we go above and beyond the headlines, and we look at the why and how stories are affecting you and your community. We invite the experts in to share their take on today's top stories, and we try to have just a little bit of fun as we go along. All right, let's start you off with this. This week, the nation was shocked to learn about an ambush killing law enforcement in Idaho responding to a scene of a brush fire. Now, we're learning about the suspect's movements, which were documented on social media. This included several TikTok videos, which he claimed to be selling organs on the black market. Authorities concluded that the brush fire was deliberately set with a flint striker to lure firefighters to what they describe as a total ambush. Meanwhile, fire suppression efforts continue. The blaze spread overnight around 26 acres before crews were established to contain the lines or contain that fire. First responders face so many uncertainties when they roll up on a scene that they are almost unprepared for what could happen. Here to offer some insight is Andre Holmes. He is the Public Information Officer with the Atlanta Fire Rescue. Welcome to the show, my friend.
Thank you for having me.
All right, this is disturbing, to say the least. When you hear about people deliberately setting a fire or any kind of incident where you guys are called out in an ambush, what's your first response to that?
Well, I first want to say that we are holding up the families of Battalion Chiefs John Morrison and Frank Hardwood. And from what I understand, someone is fighting for their life right now, Engineer David Tinsdall. We are all part of the fire rescue family, and we affirm and pray for their support during this difficult time.
So
your question. Go ahead.
Go ahead. So what's your response to this? Like when you first hear about this happening, what's your response to it?
Well, my initial response is scene size up will never be the same again in the fire service. Just like the Columbine massacre occurred, that kind of was a flashpoint with how security and how community engages with our public schools. This incident will probably most likely have repercussions with how we do our job across the nation as first responders and firefighters.
Is there a way to prepare for this?
Excuse me?
Is there a way for you to prepare for this, for something like this to happen?
I don't hear your question, I'm sorry.
Okay, is there a way for you guys to prepare for ambushes like this to happen? Do you guys prepare for that?
Well, like I said, we talk about scene size up. Usually when the call comes in, that scene size up that basically gives us a lay of the land and tells us what we're working on begins with pre-incident planning, knowing your territory, knowing the kind of vulnerabilities in your territory, knowing the buildings and the situations like that. Scene size up now that we have to plan for someone to cause us harm. It used to be we just look for the burning fire or we look for the patient. Now we have got to be vigilant about the fact that there may be people out there that are looking to cause us harm. And that means we're looking for suspicious activity and things that just don't feel right when you get on the scene.
I was going to say that, like you would typically go in and you see a fire, a building on fire, maybe wanting to assess who's in there, who you can rescue and bring out. And now you have to kind of look around you to see what's going on around you. Is that the protocol now for firefighters when they arrive on scenes?
Well, scene size up is a part of the protocol. What has not been a part of the protocol is just that being aware that a fire may be intentionally set or that you may be lured into situations. A few years ago, there was a hostage situation in Metro Atlanta that involved some firefighters, and they were able to make it out to safety because those firefighters had good radio communication and developed some code signals. But this has kind of been always there on the forefront, but the level of this kind of just raises it up a notch, which we know that will be incorporated in how we do our training drills moving forward.
At the moment you get to a scene and you find out that something's not right, what happens after that? What do you guys do? What kind of action do you go in when the scene is not right?
Well, you typically, because we don't go in the scene alone, we're in constant communication. The radios that we wear are our primary source of connection when we're on scene and when we're working, hand signals of that nature. When you're working side by crews, you can, just like when we go into a building and there may be a soft patch in the floor that may indicate collapse. There are different signs that let us know when something is not quite right. The key in these situations is to follow your instincts, follow your gut. If it doesn't smell right, if it doesn't look right, don't just not pay attention to that.
Yeah. Yeah. Obviously, there's some growing public appreciation for this. What kind of support do you think firefighters need all the time, not just in the aftermath of something like this, but what kind of support could we give you guys when you go in a scene like this?
Well, what we'd like to always encourage people to understand is we are there to kind of bring order to chaos. Sometimes there's a lot of things that we have to do with crowd control and keeping people out of the area, or what we call the hot zone. So be respectful when we put caution tape and when we're working. Please give us time to mitigate the situation. People are concerned about their personal things. We understand that. People are concerned about their loved ones. But if we all can just take a minute to just breathe and know that we have been trained for moments such as this, we're going to do our part. We just need you to be patient with us and do your part.
Sounds good. And Harry Holmes, really appreciate you joining us today and giving us that insight.
Thank you.
All right, have a great day. All right, folks, better as far as the forecast goes. That's what we're looking at. Drier air working into our forecast area, and that's going to stay that way at least through the holiday weekend. So if you got plans to be outside today, do it so with confidence. Looking at a 20% chance for an isolated shower, which means most of the area will stay dry. We're going to stay that way, again, right on up until the weekend. Once we get past the weekend, going into next week, that's when we could see an isolated shower or two come back. Right now, it's a low threat, a 20% chance for an isolated shower both Monday and Tuesday. What could change that is an area of low pressure off the coast that could develop and then move back our way. That will increase our chances, excuse me, for the rain. So we're watching that as we head into the weekend and into next week. Know right now, though, the 4th of July looks great. We'll have sunshine around. 93 degrees will be the afternoon high. All right, folks, don't go anywhere. Only a few days left to get that big, beautiful bill to the president's desk. We're going to get the latest from Alice Barr coming up. Well, the quote, big, beautiful bill has just a couple days left to be signed by the president before a Friday deadline, and now it's been sent back to the House. Joining us now is NBC Washington correspondent Alice Barr. Alice, the House just gavelled into session for today. Walk us through what we can expect today. And I'm hearing that weather may play a role in this?
Yeah, that's right, your favorite. But as far as what's happening inside the House chamber, there's kind of a procedural round of discussion that is kicking off this morning. So especially because of what you just mentioned, there's been some wild weather across the country that's canceled a lot of flights. Many lawmakers have decided to jump into their cars. They're driving long distances to make it back here, but that's kind of constraining the timetable here. And Speaker Johnson acknowledged that any final vote here may have to wait until tomorrow. They're kicking off, though, by going through some votes about the Rules Committee met overnight and advanced this. And so there's kind of some procedural nitty-gritty going on this morning. But the bottom line is, once it gets to the full House floor, to the full final vote, are there going to be the numbers there in order to get this across the finish line? Because the Senate had to make some changes to bring some holdovers along so that it could squeak through the Senate just barely. But that means some changes that House Speaker Mike Johnson acknowledged went a little bit further than he would have preferred. And now the House has to sign off on those changes without making changes of its own if it's going to meet this Friday deadline President Trump wants to get it to him. And there are some grumblings that people aren't thrilled about that.
I see. How much pressure is it on leadership to get this thing signed to get to the president's desk by Friday?
Right. So to get it passed so the president can sign it on Friday, there's a lot of pressure. I mean, this is essentially President Trump's domestic policy agenda on the line here. We're talking about everything from extending those massive Trump tax cuts that started in his first term, were set to expire, and this bill makes permanent, to, funding defense, funding deportations, funding border security. There's a lot that's wrapped up in this. No tax on tips, no tax on overtime. A lot of President Trump's promises, campaign campaign promises and what he's been talking about since he's been in office. It comes along with also cuts to Medicaid that are pretty substantial, part of what's aimed at offsetting all of those costs and the new spending I just mentioned. And that's been at the core of what has caused a lot of the hang-up. There are fiscal conservatives who don't think that this bill does enough to cover its costs. It's expected that it will add more than $3 trillion to the deficit. And then there are more moderates who are concerned about the Senate version going even further in terms of cuts to federal aid. And there's another big number we've been talking about there, more than 11 million Americans expected to lose their health insurance through cuts to Medicaid and other health care programs through this bill.
Could we see enough Republican holdouts in the House to possibly derail the bill?
So, yeah, there's definitely been concern. You know, there's a pretty hardcore group of fiscal conservatives in the House, and we've heard from some of them coming out and saying that they don't think. We heard Marjorie Taylor Greene saying she called in to an interview and said she did not think that there would be enough votes in the House to get this through for one person. And so they can only afford to lose 3, as in the Senate. In the House, they can only afford to lose 3 Republicans and get it across the finish line. And there's a fairly substantial group of House Republicans that tends to balk at anything that's going to raise the deficit. And again, that seems to be pretty substantially established that that's going to happen here, according to the Nonpartisan Congressional Budget Office. So that's a pretty big pill to swallow for those fiscal conservatives that have long been opposed to any kind of increase like that.
Certainly understand that, Alice. Really appreciate your insight on it. We'll be getting back to you soon about this bill. All right. Many home buyers are holding out for lower interest rates. What effect does that have on the builders? We're going to talk about that coming up. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back to the show. If you're house hunting this summer, you may have noticed fewer options and more incentives. The reason? New numbers show home builders' confidence just hit one of the lowest points in more than a decade. So what does that mean for us here in Metro Atlanta? Let's bring in Jordan Tinch. He's with the Greater Atlanta House Home Builders Association. Welcome to the show, Jordan.
Thanks so much for having me.
All right. The national numbers show builders' confidence is sinking. How closely does that reflect what we're seeing right here in Metro Atlanta?
So I think it's fair to say that there's a lot of confidence that's going down, but I think Georgia and Atlanta are a little better positioned than national to weather those numbers. You know, we have good job growth here, and we have good migration from people coming in, but there is still a lot of uncertainty out there.
Yeah, I understand that. We saw a record number of builders offering price cuts or buying incentives. What kind of deals are actually working right now to get buyers off the fence?
So the biggest item is, I think, especially across Atlanta, is price reductions.
Mm-hmm.
Really, what we're seeing is it's harder for people to qualify as housing has gotten more and more expensive over the last several years. So trying to understand what you can afford. But we all know interest rates are at an all-time high.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that we want to talk about as well. People are holding out because of those interest rates, hoping that they'll go down. Are builders adjusting their strategies in hopes that there could be a fall, or is this just they're bracing themselves for a longer slowdown?
So the building industry is very cyclical.
Mm-hmm.
You see lots of ups and downs. So there is some immediate reaction to this. But typically, if we build out a project, it's 3 to 5 years away. And so I think you can't change the strategy. It's not like you can move a large ship. But ultimately, from the short term, you'll see a couple price reductions and then trying to manage your costs better over the long term.
Yeah. Builders are offering a lot of incentives, right? We've been seeing that here as of late. Are we entering into a more buyer-friendly market because of that here in Metro Atlanta, or is it still more of an affordability problem?
So it is starting to move towards the buyers, but we're not quite at what they say, a 6-month months of supply aspect. We're still low for supply here. A lot of that is due to the difficulty to get things zoned, the local regulations, and the costs of that. So I think you are starting to see a little bit more favor to the buyer. But the other side of that is resales aren't coming online as much as they have in the past,
mm-hmm.
Because most buyers don't want to trade that 3.5% mortgage rate for a 6.5% mortgage rate and a house that costs $50,000 to $100,000 more.
Right. It's a wise thing to consider, right? What would you say to home buyers that are waiting on the sidelines for those prices or those rates to drop down? Is now a smart time to buy, or should we be more patient?
So as a home builder, I have to say that now's a good time to buy. But realistically, there's a lot of predictions that the interest rate will come down this year, and then further next year as well. But you are starting to see that, I think now's the time for builders to sell. And so you're able to get a little bit better incentives than you may get later this year. And it all comes down to this uncertainty, right? With, government, again, interest rates, all that leads to questions from a home builder side. And so we're making deals. And I recommend that now is always a good time to buy.
Okay. All right. Thanks a lot, Jordan. Really appreciate you being on the show today, and thanks for your insight.
Yep. Have a great one.
All right. Take care. All right. We're getting closer to the holiday, and traffic could become more of an issue. We're going to talk to the Gridlock Guy and get his take after the break. Stay right there. All right, welcome back to the show. It's been a very busy morning for the 11Alive traffic team and involved a major crash on the perimeter. We're going to head out to 11Alive's Doug Turnbull right now, and you are looking at a crash on 295. I think it's been cleared up, but you're on another crash right now on I-20. Tell us about that.
Yeah, and good morning to you, Chesley, and to everybody out there that's tuning in. And it's been a rough morning here in DeKalb County. I want to give you a quick look here off of the roof cam of our impact tracker truck, and you can see a 4-car crash in the clearing stages. At times, the right lane's still blocked here on 20 westbound after Moreland Avenue. Now, this was after, of course, the major tractor trailer incident we started covering at 4:30 this morning, Chesley, which was on 285 west at Boulder Crest. We saw a truck basically jackknife hit the wall. It might have even caught fire. It knocked the front wheels off of it, and they blocked about 75% of 285 at that spot, 285 west at Boulder Crest in South DeKalb County, for close to 3 hours, and jammed it all the way up before I-20. That sends extra people. I don't know, you've driven this city a long time, Chesley. That sends extra people to places they aren't used to driving, and that usually causes more crashes. And so I have just a hunch, just a guess, that this 20 west at Moreland crash is probably an indirect result of the one we saw on 285 earlier.
Doug, you get a chance to talk to people about Atlanta traffic all the time, and it seems like these crashes happen like all the time, right? How do people feel about traffic? Is it something that people are just accepted around here, that they know something's going to happen and they just kind of accept that for their commutes, or do you find they get more frustrated by these incidents?
People love traffic. My gosh, they love it. No, one thing I love, being tongue-in-cheek there, one thing I love about being a traffic reporter is that traffic is like the Unity ticket, okay? It doesn't matter your demographic, your way of life. Generally, people unite over the fact that they have a severe disdain for sitting in traffic, and especially Atlanta traffic. And it becomes a meme, just Atlanta's going to Atlanta. It's doing traffic. Today was one of those mornings where it's kind of a holiday vibe. You have room on the roadways to move a little bit. When there's less people on the roads, when there are less people on the roads, that means you move faster and things hit harder. And sometimes it opens you up a little false sense of security for these big wrecks. Now, really, we only had like one big wreck this morning, but we had several smaller ones, like the one I'm on scene here on I-20, that were just enough to be a fly in the ointment.
Talk about your experience now. You're new with us here at 11Alive, and you've been out on the roads, and that's where we find you pretty much every morning. You're getting right there in the midst of these accidents. Tell us about your role.
So this role here is joining 11Alive News this morning with Rachel Cox-Rosen, who does an amazing job in the studio looking at the 30,000-foot view of traffic. And she and I work together to, quote, assign me to different parts of the traffic beat each morning. And so I get in the impact tracker truck here with a photographer. Today and most days it's Stephen Boise sitting here to my left. And then we go, and we're either just trolling around looking for new things, or we're going to the scene, like this morning, of that big one on 285. And it reminds me, Chesley, of my years flying in the helicopter, where we did the same thing. We just troll around and kind of look at the normal stuff, and then we would pivot and go look at something big if we had to. And today we certainly had that.
Yeah. Talk to me about your MARTA experience.
Say it again, please. I'm sorry.
Talk to me about your MARTA experience.
My MARTA experience. I'm sorry. Yes, I thought I heard my motoring experience. I was like, "Are we going to talk NASCAR?" I'm ready to go. Okay, no, my MARTA. I'm sorry, my MARTA experience. My hearing isn't great. So this past week in Gridlock Guy, I wrote, and you can find it on 11alive.com and in the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. I took MARTA to my first day at 11Alive because I didn't have to be there till 9 a.m. and you all are we're not far from the Lindbergh station, and I live next to the Chamblee station. So I wrote about that experience and how it's easy to dog MARTA, but if you have the ability to take it, it's worth giving it a shot, and that's how it can get better. And so that's basically it. MARTA, I only had to go 3 stops to Lindbergh, and then it was an easy 8:09 bus from Lindbergh coming up to the 11Alive studios there. So you just have to time it right, and it goes pretty well.
All right, speaking of timing, we're heading into a holiday weekend, 4th of July weekend. What's some of the things that people should be aware of? What should they avoid this upcoming weekend?
Sure. Number one, heavy holiday traffic, especially 75 in the southern suburbs. And remember, after July 4th, it's people coming home, like Sunday for the next work week on the 6th. The next thing, and this is of critical importance, I want everyone to lock in, okay, is drinking and driving is a major concern. And really, July 4th holiday weekend and also the holidays around Christmas and so forth and New Year's are circled on the Georgia State Patrol's list, on local law enforcement's list. Listen, a lot of us like to enjoy ourselves on the July 4th weekend. There's no reason to drink and drive. One stat I saw, 77% more likely to be drunk driving crashes on July 4th than on a regular day.
Yeah. What are you working on for your next column, my friend?
Yeah, this coming week, and we're talking about the hands-free law, 7-year anniversary of that. A lot of people are still distracted driving. I talked to data scientist Alex Karen about what makes those laws work, and has Georgia gotten better compared to the rest of the nation since passing that law in the last 7 years? And honestly, you're not going to love those results. We got a deeper dive there, including numbers from the Governor's Office of Highway Safety in the next Gridlock Guy on 11alive.com.
All right, the Gridlock Guy, Doug Turnbull. Thanks so much for joining us, and thanks so much for keeping us safe on the roads, my friend. You can read Doug's Gridlock Guy column right now on 11alive.com. Just go there and check him out. All right, micro homes are becoming more popular as a means of affordable living in our parts of our area. We're going to talk about that coming up. Plus, we're going to get the latest on the AJC Peachtree Road Race. Stay tuned, folks. We'll be back right after this. Welcome back to the show. As Metro Atlanta home prices remain out of reach for many, some are turning to a smaller solution. A new micro home community has already sold out. 11 Alive's Jonathan Martin joins us now to explain these tiny homes opening new doors for affordable home ownership in our area as part of his Affording Atlanta series. Jonathan, right off the bat, tell us first of all, welcome to the show again. And tell us right off the bat, what is a micro home?
Always good to be here with you, Chesley. Yeah, a micro home is what you might expect. It's a tiny home. In many cases, these are homes maybe 700, 800 square feet. They have a kitchen area, a living space, in some cases 1 or 2 bedrooms, and a bathroom. Really just all that you need, the basics. And we're seeing a lot of these homes, again, in Metro Atlanta. This new community that you're looking at is in Union City, sold out before it was even fully constructed. So that's what a micro home is, just enough space, usually for a lot of small families or single people.
And they're under demand. So is it more about the affordability or the practicality?
Well, maybe both, but affordability is what you'll hear from most of the people you talk to. We often talk about the high price of home ownership here in Atlanta. The average home still costing well over $400,000. So these micro homes really start anywhere between $200, $220 or so $1,000. So for a lot of people who are tired of renting, they want to enter home ownership but can't afford those high prices, this is an option for a lot of people really at a cheaper value, but still in a home.
Yeah, a home. Want to call yourself a homeowner. There's been some complaints about the quality of these homes. What are some of these concerns?
Yeah, we talked to the owner of Techie Homes, Booker T. Washington. He's the developer who built this community that we just saw and the one previously in College Park. Some of the tenants or some of the homeowners there in College Park complained about insulation issues. They also complained about just the homes being poorly built. He says he's addressed some of those concerns and really says with the micro homes, you're going to get some issues here and there, but he stands by the quality of the builds, says that they are built by licensed professionals. They are inspected. He says they are cement cladded, algae proof, mold proof. So he says, yeah, there have been a few issues, but overall he stands by the quality.
You mentioned that this community right here is sold out. Is there more of these micro homes being built down the pipeline here?
As demand is growing, Chesley, absolutely. We are hearing from the developer of this micro home community in Union City that we just showed you that he's planning another in Norcross. So he has College Park already, Union City, and another plant in Norcross. And he says he'll keep building as long as demand is there.
How does he pick those locations?
Well, he's actually from Metro Atlanta. He grew up on the South Side, and he said he wanted to specifically build these homes in communities that he thinks need higher levels of home ownership. For example, Union City, College Park, those are communities where the majority of people, if you didn't know, are renters. And he says if we can get more people owning homes, that's better for all of us, building equity and building those communities up. So that's why he's specifically looking toward the South Side.
Jonathan, I don't know if you talked to him about this or not. What's the age group that we're looking at here? Is it more toward the younger folks that you talk about maybe renting, or are these some of the older folks in our community that may be priced out of their community because of gentrification that we've talked about before?
Yeah, it's actually a little bit of both. That's a great question. He said that we have people from 25 all the way up to 65 getting into these homes. Of course, people who maybe are new homeowners. We're going to hear from one of those gentlemen tonight in my story. He's a graphic artist. He can't afford a big home, $300,000 or $400,000. So a single guy, and so he's getting into the market. But we also talk to people who are older, in their 60s, maybe wanting to downsize. They don't need a big, huge home anymore. So this is just the amount of space that they need.
Yeah, we're out of time now. One of the questions I'm going to ask you when we come back and talk about this more is, do you find people going in trying to buy these out and then upprice them? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We'll talk about that.
That could be okay. Yeah, we'll follow up on that.
All right, cool. Thanks so much, Jonathan, for joining us. All right, this morning crews are out in Buckhead, and they're starting to close off the roads for Friday's return of the annual AJC Peachtree Road Race. With us now is Atlanta Track Club CEO Rich Kanah. Welcome to the show, Rich.
Good morning, sir. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. Now, everybody knows about this race. It's an institution, especially here in our area, but there could be some new folks that have moved to the area, or maybe they're hearing about this. They really don't know what it's all about. Tell us, please.
Well, I guess in simple terms, this is how Atlanta celebrates the 4th of July. It's known as the world's largest 10K, but it's really about how the community comes together. It comes together every Independence Day. We'll have 53,000 strong out there, the biggest one since 2019.
Yep. Yeah, last year was smoking hot. This year shouldn't be as hot. So how should people be preparing for the race this year?
Your weather gods are going to be a little bit better to us this year, as far as I could tell. Mm-hmm. But we made some adjustments since last year because it was one of the hottest. Mm-hmm. We're starting a little bit earlier.
Okay.
We have a cooling towel for everybody that comes across the finish line. We've got enough water from Dasani and Coca-Cola to float a battleship. So we're going to make sure we get everybody nice and cool once they get down to Piedmont Park.
What are some of the other nuances this year that you guys have?
A big change this year is we are moving or have moved our expo, so our 2-day Peachtree Expo, to Lenox Square. So I'm sitting in our command center here. We're just getting started, bringing 40 to 50,000 people to Buckhead on the 2nd and 3rd, not just on the 4th. So that's one. Two, our Peachtree Junior is going to start and finish right here tomorrow morning. And then the last is we have fireworks. Mm-hmm. Fireworks are coming back to Lenox Square tomorrow evening, July 3rd, 9:15.
Wow. Okay, that's a big time change. Why the change though? You were down at the convention center right before. Now you moved up to. Okay, why the change?
We realize that as we position this special event for Atlanta, it's got to be more than just the experience from the start to the finish. So we wanted to create a 2 to 3 day extravaganza, if you will. So a shopping, social media, restaurant, hotel experience. We've already set up the start line truss, so you can get your selfie at the start line when you come pick up your race number.
Mm-hmm. One of the big gets is always the shirt. Any insight you can give us? I know it's not revealed until a person crosses the line. Any insight you can give us on the shirt?
Yeah, breaking news. It's short sleeves.
I don't know how breaking that is, Rich, but we'll take it. We'll take it. Also, one of the coveted things is the shoe. Do you have a shoe coming out this year, or that's out?
We do. Yeah, so we've got our Peachtree Supernova red, white, and blue shoe from Adidas, and that's been a tradition for about the last 10 years, a special Peachtree shoe, and you can pick that up right here at our expo today and tomorrow up here at Lenox Square.
You know, one of the things I ask people when they're running along, especially up toward Cardiac Hill, is why do they come back? Why do they keep coming back? Why do you think people keep coming back to this?
Yeah, it's funny you say that. So people, as you referenced, families have been doing this for decades. It's hot, it's humid, it's got hills. It's the character, right? It's not easy. Mm-hmm. And people take great pride in earning that shirt. I will say, you referenced Cardiac Hill, something new this year for the 50th anniversary of the Shepherd Center. We are temporarily renaming Cardiac Hill Hope Hill.
Hope Hill.
Because that's a tagline that Shepherd Center uses. Hope lives here. So we're going to have some fun with that this year as everyone goes by all of those patients that are outside Shepherd Center. Make sure you give them a wave and share that hope with them.
Oh, absolutely. I'm going to have to mention, I'm glad you said that. I'm going to be standing out there saying, okay, welcome to Hope Hill.
Yeah, you've usually been out there on Cardiac Hill.
Yeah, I've been out there for almost 16 years, standing there with the high fives, the sweaty hugs, all that. And so I will be out there again this year doing the same. Hoping that people will enjoy themselves. Now, you said there's an earlier start this year. What time is that?
So our first start, which is our wheelchair start, starts at 6:12.
Okay.
But our main start just about 10, 15 minutes earlier than it has been. So at 6:50. So our main start will start at 6:50. And again, we're just trying to take every minute we can to get ahead of that heat that creeps up on us mid-morning.
Yeah, that's the truth there. For all the first-time runners, any tips for them?
Yes, go out and acclimate today. If you have not been training, it's not too late to go out and do some walking and some running in heat and humidity the next 2 days, just so that you're ready come July 4th. But do some carbo loading the night before and make sure you're hydrated when you get to the start line.
All right, Rich Canal, thanks so much for joining us, man. And we'll see you out there this coming Friday for the 4th of July in the AJC Peachtree Road Race.
Looking forward to it.
All
Thanks,
right.
Jesse.
Yep. Don't go anywhere, folks. We got much more for you coming up right after the break. This is The Take, and we're back right after this. Welcome back. A blockbuster agreement sees Paramount shelling out millions to end a legal battle with President Trump. CNN's Sabeel Marcellus joins us now from the NASDAQ market site in New York. First of all, good morning to you, Sabeel. All this centers around an interview, but Paramount isn't apologizing, apparently.
Good morning, Chesley. CBS News parent Paramount Global has agreed to pay $16 million to resolve a lawsuit filed by President Trump last fall. Then candidate Trump filed the lawsuit over a single question and answer by opponent Vice President Kamala Harris during a lengthy 60 Minutes interview. He claimed without evidence that the Harris exchange was deliberately edited to negatively impact him. Paramount vehemently denied the claim and made it clear their settlement does not include an apology or statement of regret. The money will not go to Trump directly, but will instead be given to his future presidential library. Chesley, clearly, Paramount has been trying for months to complete a lucrative merger with Skydance Media. The deal requires approval from the Trump administration, in part because CBS owns local stations that are licensed by the government.
Got it. All right. We're getting ready for the holiday weekend, and folks are getting ready to hit the road, and we're getting a little bit of relief at the pump.
That's right, Chesley. So drivers hitting the road this 4th of July weekend won't need to break the bank to fill their tank. Gas prices are expected to average around $3.10, according to Gas Buddy, which tracks fuel prices nationally. A notable drop from the $3.50 drivers paid this time last year. Gas Buddy says it also represents the cheapest gas for the summer holiday since at least 2021. According to AAA, a record-setting about 61 million people are expected to travel by car this weekend. That's up by just over 2% from last year. Chesley, that translates to about an extra 1 million drivers you have to watch out for on the road this weekend compared to last year.
Yeah, I'm staying put. All right, movie theater giant AMC is now in a deal all centered around the movie ads on the big screen.
That's right. So starting today, you'll have more time to get popcorn. If you see a movie at the major theater chain AMC Entertainment, it struck a deal with ad giant National Cinemedia that expands the time that ads play before the movie starts. An ad pre-show that can last up to 30 minutes, according to AMC's website. The move marks a 180-degree turn for AMC, which resisted more ads in 2019 as rivals Regal and Cinemark signed on with National Cinemedia. The deal throws a much-needed lifeline to AMC, which saw its worst first-quarter earnings since 1996 outside of the pandemic. During the company's latest investor call, AMC's CEO dismissed the company's dismal Q1 results as an anomaly that has already corrected itself forecasting an upswing at the box office for the remainder of the year. Chesley, to stay afloat in recent years, AMC has made some difficult choices. It had to shut down 169 theaters since 2019.
All right. Hey, you know, here in Metro Atlanta, we love Waffle House, and now there's some good news with those egg prices going down, right?
Excellent news this morning for you, Waffle House fans. The restaurant chain is dropping its egg surcharge from the menu. It announced the news in an X post on Tuesday. In February, soaring egg prices due to an outbreak of the bird flu forced the company to add 50 cents to each egg it sold. That started to ease in spring, and egg prices fell over 12% in April, with the USDA now reporting that a dozen large white shell eggs cost less than $3 on average. Waffle House decided to let up on the surcharge. Eggs are the chain's most ordered item. Chesley, you would think it would be hash browns or waffles at the Waffle House, but no, it's eggs that are the most popular.
Yeah, people love eggs. Are you a fan of the Waffle House? Have you been to Waffle House at all?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I love breakfast is my favorite meal of the day. So, you know, add on the eggs, add on the waffles, the syrup. I'm all good there.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I don't eat eggs, but yeah, I can see. I mean, I see them making a lot of eggs back there, but I'm not an egg fan myself. But I do love the Waffle House. I do love Waffle House.
What's your favorite breakfast food?
Oh, I just get a waffle and a piece of chicken. You know, chicken and waffles. That's what I do. So they make it special for me.
That sounds delicious.
All right, make sure you try it next time you go. All right.
I will, for sure.
Just don't tell them Chesley sent you, or you may get kicked out or something like that, all right? So Bill, thanks so much for
I thought you were going to cover the check. No, that's not happening.
No. They may kick you out. I owe them so much. Thanks so much, Bill, for joining us. All right, take care. All right, folks, we got plenty more stories for you coming up. Plus, federal budget cuts could have a huge impact on the Chattahoochee River. Could it be avoided? We're going to talk about that coming up. Stay right there. Two Atlanta-based environmental groups are trying to come together to try to keep the Chattahoochee River from being a victim of federal budget cuts. Here with us today is Brittany Jones, Executive Director of the Chattahoochee National Park Conservancy. Welcome to the show, Brittany.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right, talk to me about the importance of the federal funding for the river, especially the Chattahoochee River National Recreation Area.
Yeah, I think, you know, what I want to start up by saying, and I guess emphasizing, is our park here in the Metro Atlanta area has been chronically underfunded and under-resourced for over a decade now. And what we're seeing since the start of this year is really an attack on even more, I would say, resource and funding allocation toward our park and parks across the country. There's been more of a strain and amplification on the issue for staffing and budget cuts and hiring freezes. And now there's a proposed budget out there for the National Park Service, which in turn would affect our Chattahoochee down here, of $1 billion cut to a $3 billion agency. So there's a lot of concern swirling around right now for our park.
You said it's been underfunded for the last 10 years? Is that right?
At the very least, the National Park Service has the internal reputation, I would say, of not being funded quite enough for what it needs. Our park out here in Metro Atlanta, what I like to say is Atlanta's Backyard National Park, has now a deferred maintenance of over $53 million. So their budget just hasn't been able to cut what they need to keep up with just the growing demand of being in an urban area with high visitation. I mean, this is consistently the top 30 most visited national parks in the country.
How have you guys been bridging the gap with that?
Well, we pick away at it as much as we can. So we are the nonprofit friends group to the national park, and our mission really is to enhance the park. And so we don't try and come in and necessarily fill the gaps that the federal budget just isn't cutting necessarily, but we do try and work with the park to help build on the priorities of what the park needs for the community to enjoy the park, and also for it to just be here for the future generations. You know, we want it to be here 100 years, 200 years from now, and for folks to have the same experience that they have today and 100 years from now. But it really is just trying to chip away year after year with what they can do with the money that they are given through federal appropriations. And it really is an uphill battle. So this year is especially difficult, seeing even more proposed cuts to the budget.
Yeah, you know, often people think, and I'm sitting here thinking that national parks are well protected. I don't know if you can see my face or not, but I'm surprised about how fragile this is. I mean, how surprised are you when people find out that, you know, of situations like this, and when they hear about this? Are you surprised by that?
Oh yeah, yeah. I think there's been some very strategic, I guess, actions taking place for the visitors of the parks across the country. I mean, this isn't happening in a bubble and at the Chattahoochee here in Atlanta. It's happening across the country, across 433 parks. But for the visitors not to really be affected. So if you go into the park today and you pay your $5 fee, I hope, you won't really feel what's going on behind the scenes because the Park Service has really been directed to stay open and accessible and keep operating. But what's happening behind the scenes, as there's hiring freezes, folks are being encouraged to take early retirement buyouts, vacancies aren't being filled. There's certainly an encouragement for reductions in force that we're seeing. So there's a lot of scrambling behind the scenes to stay open, and the visitors don't feel that. So you won't feel that if you're going on a hike today at the Chattahoochee,
Gotcha.
But there's certainly a lot of concern, and it's certainly just kind of swirling behind the scenes. And on top of that, as we go into federal appropriations season for next year, we're even worried, you know, because there's not a ton of information being passed down to the physical parks themselves, and even more to the nonprofit partners, of course. But how does $1 billion cut affect the Chattahoochee and parks across the country? We don't know. So our worry is, you know, what is going to be the sacrifice that needs to be made because these parks do need to stay open? Is it going to be conservation, resource management, you know, all those really important things that happen behind the scenes so this park can stay as it is today?
Brittany, we're running out of time here real quick, but if you can tell me in a minute, A, what happens if you lose this funding, and B, how can people help you out?
Well, if we lose the funding, I think that we're going to see a lot more activation, especially for groups like us, nonprofit partners to national parks. I think we're going to have to take a much bigger role in how we support the parks. What people can do right now is call their elected officials. I mean, parks are a nonpartisan space. I think you just need to call and tell folks how much you love your national park and how important it is to you. And we have a lot of great resources on our website to learn more about what's going on. And honestly, just becoming a member of our organization, those dollars go right back into the park. So any little thing helps right now.
Brittany, thank you so much for your insight. Thanks for alerting us to this as well. Really appreciate it.
Absolutely.
All right, take care. All right, folks, plenty more stories for you coming up after the break, plus my final take right after this. Hey, we're rain-free today, just about. 20% chance for an isolated shower, which means most of the area won't see anything at all, except for the sunshine that we'll have out there. Mostly sunny skies again tomorrow. Temperatures will stay on the hot side, though. We're going to be in those 90s, so the wave at least continues. But we have a good holiday weekend for you, folks. Friday, Saturday, Sunday, all dry. You're looking at less than a 10% chance for rain. Temperatures will be in the low 90s, and we'll continue that as we head into next week with a 20% chance of rain on Monday and Tuesday as folks go back to work. All right, before we go, my final take. Truly a whirlwind start to a romance for two storm chasers. This photo has gone viral of Sheldon and Paige committing to marriage with a tornado in the background. Look at that right there, right? This was in South Dakota. People thinking, okay, that's a fake. It's AI generated. Nope. It's real. And according to Sheldon, it took a lot of planning to get the perfect storm, if you know what I mean. The two met roughly a year ago as members of a storm-chasing group. They've been inseparable ever since. Paige hinted that if Sheldon ever proposed to her, she wanted to do it in front of a tornado. Can you believe that? So Sheldon made it happen, right? Carrying around the ring until they found the perfect day when they were out storm chasing. Sheldon is showing that he is willing to fulfill her dreams this early in the relationship. I think, Paige, you got to keep her right there. And if you're thinking he was putting themselves in harm's way, keep in mind it's the northern plains. You can see those tornadoes way out. So they were safe. Plus, they're trained. They know what they're doing. They chase storms all the time. You know, I'm praying for a long, blissful marriage, hopefully with no storms interrupting the marriage at all. That's all we got for you today, folks. Make it a great day and try to encourage someone to stay away from storms here. We don't have any this week. Enjoy.